Good afternoon, everybody. How are we all? Are we all doing okay? Aren't they level? There we go. Does that look better? It does. Good afternoon. I hope you're all well. I know you've all been shopping. I just hope Lisa's taken her dancing shoes with her, because I can't see this lasting very long, if I'm honest. It is such a beautiful collection, and you've all obviously been blown away with the samples. So I know some of you have already been shopping. Hi Jan, hi Janice, hi Claire. Let me just get my chat up there. Hi Karen, you were early. Hi Marion. Hi Jean, Margaret, hi Debbie, hi Sue, hi Hazel, hi Sheila. It's nice to see so many of you here. Are you all ready for Lisa's shows? It rained and now the sun is out. Yeah, it's been a bit wet here, on and off all morning, Sue, to be honest. But I haven't put any washing out because it won't dry anyway. So, and I haven't got any, to be fair, because I did it on Sunday. Hi Patricia. Hi Lorraine. Still not got your YouTube sorted out, Lorraine. Hi Jackie. I don't remember seeing that name before, Jackie, so welcome if you're new. I'm going to attempt that one. Agnieszka? I attempted it. I apologise if it's wrong. Hi Karin. Right, so today we are going to use the Zinnia. Now I know Claire used it yesterday. You would have had a gap of a day if she'd done it on Tuesday, but I know she was poorly. So I've only ever had a couple of migraines in my life, and I really don't want another one. I don't. I feel for people who suffer with them, so you know I don't have a problem. But I am going to be colouring it in a similar way to the way Claire coloured hers yesterday. Primarily because as I watched it, I thought, why haven't I thought of that? And I thought the way she coloured it was amazing. I'm using different colours, so it won't look quite the same, but that's what I'm doing today. Okay, now I'm doing 2 cards. So I'm going to start with the more complicated. No, it's not complicated. It's just a little bit more involved. So I'm going to start with that one first. So if I just show you the card that I'm basing this first one on. That's that one there. You will have seen in the group. And I'm not doing, you can see there's embossing on the back of that. I'm not doing the embossing, and it's a different shaped card. So that card shape was probably a 6x8, because that rectangle, that scalloped rectangle on there, fits a 5x7 perfectly. So it's probably, in fact, it's probably more than that, 8x10 possibly. But the one I'm doing today is a square card, so it's a smaller card. So if you look at that image, you should see, if you look really carefully, that there are 3 different flowers in the background. And on today's I'm only doing 2, because obviously it's a smaller card, so I've got less space to work with. Okay. Do I keep my, hang on, can't see it on my iPad. Do I keep my tacky mat on my Ultimate, or do I put it away? It stays on my Ultimate, so I have to be honest. But I always put the little piece of acetate back over the top so that it doesn't get any dust on it, because as soon as you get dust on it, it loses its tack. So yeah, it stays there. And it stays on my Ultimate too, because this is the one I use most. So let me just take that card off. And if I just put the product that I've used today there, just take that off. Okay, so obviously we're using the Zinnia, we're using the stencils, the 3D embossing folder and the die today. Okay, I'm also using the nested stitch bubble ovals, a completely different way to the way Claire used it yesterday. The nested scalloped plain stitched squares, and I'm using the largest scallop and the largest plain stitched square on there. I'm also using the Petal Flourish, not on the first card, it'll be on the second card. And don't forget that this set, along with a set of 3 of the stencil brushes, the original set, so the 3 different sizes, this, that and the stencil brushes, £30.98, just for this week only. It will finish on Sunday night at midnight, unless it sells out beforehand. So basically you're getting the embossing folder for free. Okay, so you're paying for that and the stencil brushes, and this comes free. And it's a beautiful set, and you can use it in so many different ways. So I used it in one way on Monday, and I'm going to use it in a totally different way today. Okay, and then I've also used the foiled and plain sticker sentiments, but you could use any sentiments that you've got in your stash. You know, it's totally up to you, and that's why I haven't listed it in the product that I've used, because it's not available anyway. Okay, so I didn't want to put it up there and you think it was available, because it isn't. Okay, so we'll go with that. Now the colours that I'm using on this card, if I just put that up, I'm only using 4 colours. Okay, so if I just get my piece that I'm going to stencil on. So I've got 2 pieces here. Okay, I'm going to do the main one first. Let me take that off there, otherwise my card won't stick to my tacky mat, will it? So I'll put my card down here. Just make sure that I've put that in the middle. Lift it up and move it up a little bit. Okay, but I am using exactly the same colours. Okay, now I did want this to look a little bit lighter than the main image, but I'm not worried if it doesn't, because what I've also done is I've cut a black piece with the die, so that that's going to sit behind my main image, so that it's going to lift the main image up a little bit, and you're going to be more obvious. Are you with me? It will all become clear, I promise. Okay, so we'll leave that to one side for now, because I'm going to do that in a minute, and I'm going to do the main flower that we're going to die cut and emboss. All right, so I'm starting with Shocking Pink. I was going to use a bigger brush, but what have I done with it? Here, I'm going to use this one. Okay, so I'm going to start with my Shocking Pink, and like I say, I am going to colour it in a similar fashion to the way Claire did hers, because I liked it. So I'm going really quite heavy in the middle. Got lots of little bits on my stencils for some reason. Let me just put the chat back so as I can see your conversation. I'll take the colours down in a second, but I'll just leave them there in case anybody wants to make a note of the ones that I've used. Hi Sharon. Hi Sandra. Hi Helen. Hi Cindy. And Carol and Linda. It's nice to see so many of you here. Okay, so I'm coming in not too heavy around the main flower, and I'm just going to drag in the colour from around that stencil. But across the middle here, I am going to go a little bit heavier because it looks amazing. And I thought, as Claire had already shown you this method, I thought I'd pinch it, so I hope she doesn't mind. I'm sure she won't. I have said it was Claire that showed me how to do it, haven't I? Okay, so we'll take number 1 off. And I'm not worried about cleaning them because I'm going to be using the same colours again on my other piece. Okay, so again we're coming in with the Shocking Pink, and again we're going to go heavier in the middle, but I am going to use another colour on top of this as well. So I'm going to use a rhubarb jam on the top of this, and when I first put it down I thought, oh, I made a mistake here, it's not quite the right colour, it doesn't look quite right. But actually, when I'd finished, I was really quite pleased with it. So I haven't gone dark enough on there. So I need to go quite a lot darker on here. And then I'm going to go even darker across the middle there with that rhubarb jam. And I think you'll agree, when it first goes down, you think, what on earth is she doing? What has she used that colour for? But when you take it off and you die cut it and you then emboss it, you'll see why. Okay, so that's number 2. I like that. And then we're going to go in and we're going to put all the details of the leaves on the petals on this flower have sort of folded over. So when you look at a flower and you get little parts of the petals that actually curl up, those are going to be darker because they're the ones that would sort of catch all the shadows, if you like. Hi Bonnie. Hi Adrienne. Hi Julie. Before you go to work. Ooh, what a horrible thought. So I'm going to go in with the rhubarb jam on here, just because it's a darker colour and I want these to sort of show up as being darker. Okay, so I thought, well, we'll go with a darker colour and hopefully it'll all look okay, she said. You can go a little bit darker on some of those because it hasn't quite caught the little aperture. Has on some but not on others. That's better. So you can see when I show it you at the end, you'll see that where these petals are sort of curling up, this is where the shadow catches. As the petal curls over, the top would be light and then the bit that actually curls would be quite a bit darker. Okay, so there's only 5 stencils with this set. Now again, I'm going in here with that Shocking Pink first, and then I'm going to do exactly the same as what Claire did yesterday and go in with a little bit of darkness with that rhubarb jam just to give it a little bit of definition. Okay, and then we're going to do the leaves, and I am using the same colours, but then I've always used Margarita for my leaves because I just love the colour. I think it's a lovely colour. So I'm going to use the Margarita, and again I'm using the same green to give a little bit of shading on these leaves, but then I did that on Monday as well. So I think there are certain times when you use exactly the same colours as each other, and that's not wrong. It's not copying. It's called following, you know, somebody else's lead, and there's no harm in that at all. As long as you say you credit the original person, then there's nothing wrong at all. Now you see I used a piece of kitchen towel there just to take off that rhubarb jam that was sitting on there, because I don't want to contaminate this green with that beautiful sort of very deep red rhubarb jam. So I've just wiped it off with a piece of kitchen towel, and because it's round an aperture, the only place that ink is going to go is onto my kitchen roll or into that aperture. So because you've already got the ink in that aperture, it's not going to make any difference. It's not going to spoil anything. Okay, so a little bit of garden sage. Just see what I've got left on my brush. Not a great deal, so I'll put it on the stencil, and then we'll flip it up into those leaves, just to give it a little bit of, you know, light and shade, just to give it a bit of definition, make it look a little bit more alive. And this is just, it's just practice. You know, you've often heard Lisa say your first one will be your worst one, and honestly it will, because you'll only get better. The more you do, the better you'll get at it. I mean, mine aren't brilliant, but I like the effects that I'm getting, so I'm happy. Okay, so finally we're just going to come in and use that Margarita on the stem here. In fact, I might use a smaller brush, because there's only a really narrow aperture. So we're going to use that smaller brush and put that Margarita in there. And then I'm going to do exactly what I did on Monday, and I'm going to come in with that garden sage just down the outside, just to give it a little bit of shadow. And then we're going to go back in with that garden sage on the veins on the leaves. Okay, so I want that nice and dark with that Margarita. Well, I say dark, I mean solid colour, that's what I mean. Okay, then we're coming in with that garden sage. We're going to do all the veins on the leaves. Doesn't matter, you know, if you have a bit of overspill into the light green Margarita, it doesn't matter. It'll be absolutely fine and it'll still look great. So I'm coming down there, and then finally we're just going to come in on the bottom of that piece there, underneath that piece, and then down the side of here. Only very lightly, just to fill in a little bit of light and shade down that stem. Yeah, happy with that, like that. So I'll put those back there, because I'm going to use those again in a minute in exactly the same colours. So if I lift that up and just show you the colours, you see what I mean about the rhubarb jam? When I first started, and I just thought I'd used the wrong colour, it was too red. But looking at it now, it's actually the perfect colour. It really blends beautifully, I think, in my opinion. So I'm going to put the dye on, and then we're going to cut it out. Don't forget, you'll always have like a little 1 to 2 mil border round your flower. So don't try and line it up like right across the edge of your flower, because if you line it up on the edge here, it's going to be miles out on this side. So always line it up so that you've got a tiny little border around your flower that you can see within that dye. Okay, I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on to hold it down, because I don't want it to move particularly, not when I've just spent that time stenciling it. And then I'm just going to run it through. I'll move my other bits and pieces, so I don't want you to see those just yet. So I'm just going to run it through. It'll be off camera, so you'll only hear the noise. And I'm sorry if it shakes the camera a little bit. Okay, So that's that die cut. I'll put that to one side, and then we can use the embossing folder and we can emboss it. And again, just as Claire showed you yesterday, lining it up, ignore this piece, line it up, find one piece that you're happy with and then fiddle around with the rest until you're happy that it's all where it should be. Okay, doesn't take you very long. Happy with that, I think. Yeah, happy with that. So I've got it secured this end. I'm just going to bring this back part up, grasp the 3 layers, and then take my hand out of there and then run it through my die cutting machine. Okay, don't forget to change your plates from your cutter to your 3D embossing folders, and don't forget not to put your hinge near the top, because you don't want to break the hinge on your folder. Okay, so that's that. Now I think that looks amazing, because once you've stenciled it and embossed it, die cut it and embossed it, the detail that comes out on there is perfect, and that's where that shading will now sort of really jump out at you. And it is Lisa's white texture card, Helen, that I've used on this one, and it's also the white texture card that I'm going to use on the background piece as well. So yeah, I think it looks beautiful. When you're using the texture card, you might find you have to work a little bit harder to put your ink down, because obviously you're filling sort of textured lines on the card, so you're going to need the ink to sort of sit inside all those textured lines, so you might have to work a little bit harder, but it's not going to take you that much longer. Okay, so that's my piece to go on top of my stenciled pieces, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this to that black piece that you saw that I showed you earlier. Okay, so it gives me that drop shadow, and that's just going to make this stand out a little bit from what I'm stenciling in the background. So if I put this down now, by the time we need to use it, it'll all be perfectly dry and safe. Okay, and I have 3D'd the black piece because I want these to sit proud of the piece that I'm doing behind. So just place that down there. You can have the drop shadow as big or as small as you want, but obviously don't make it huge because it just wouldn't look right. You just need enough of that black showing so that it just looks like a drop shadow when you put it onto your card. So when you place it on there, it's gonna look perfect. Okay, so now we need to do this piece. Now obviously I've already stenciled this one because I wanted to save a little bit of time. So I've stenciled this one, and I've obviously been able to put my piece of card right next to my pegs and stencil it normally. Okay, but when I'm coming to do this side, I'm not going to be able to do that. So this is where my markings on my tacky mat template that I've got underneath my tacky mat come into its sort of really useful place. So I'm going to count in, you see the dark lines on here that are giving you this fabulous shape. I'm going to count in 3, and I'm going to put my piece of card down there like that. Okay, or was that my stencil? That was my stencil. Ignore that. I'm going to put my stencil on line 3. So I've got this shape here and this line here. So this is the line I'm following. So three lines in, okay? 3 shapes in, and I'm following this line. So my stencil is going to sit there, okay? Now I can put my card underneath, and I know that I'm going to put my stencil where I want it, okay? But before I do that, I need to cover this up, because I'm going to stencil another one which is going to overlap this. Well, I don't want it to overlap and look awful, do I? So I've cut this from Lisa's fabulous masking tape, and providing I can get it to peel off, hurrah, I'm going to take the backing off, and then I'm going to put this down on top of what I've already stenciled. Okay, so take time, line it up and pop that down there. All right, then that's that covered up. You're not going to get ink on the one you've already stenciled, and you're going to be able to stencil this one without any worries. All right, so I'm going to put this where I want this flower to be. Now, as Claire showed you yesterday, use the stencil that's got the most outside bits, which is the leaves. So I want the leaves to sit inside this square, but I want them a little bit higher than this one. Okay, so you can see where this one comes to. This one is going a little bit higher. Okay, so my top leaf is going to be sitting right near the top of this square. All right, so then I can put my stencil on my third line, on my third sort of right angle there. And I know that every time I put a stencil down, providing I put it there, it's always going to be in the right place. Hope all that made sense. So, third line, third right angle, put that there, like so. And then we can start and stencil our image. All right, so we're going to start with the Shocking Pink, but I'm going to use my Wonder Brush on this occasion because, like I said to you at the start, I wanted this to be a little bit softer than the main image, and you can see the main image is really quite deep in colour. So I want this to be lighter. It doesn't have to be mega light, but I want it to be lighter than what I'm going to put on the top. So again, I'm going to come across the middle here. In fact, I go back to my stencil brush for that. I'm going to come across the middle so that I can put my shading in. And you can see that where that mask is, that I'm inking the mask rather than the image that was underneath it. That is the beauty of the masking tape. And you get such a lot for your money. It really is pretty amazing. So I can take that off. I can put number 2 down. I'm going to put it in exactly the same place. And I know that, sorry if you can just see the top of my head, that is going to be in the right place. Okay, so again, I'm going to come back with that Wonder Brush. I'm going to add all my ink. This is still going to be really sort of quite bright, but I'm hoping that the one that I've done and added the drop shadow to will be a lot brighter and will stand out. So we'll just come through the middle with that rhubarb jam, like so. Doesn't have to be precise because you're not going to see all of it. Peel that off, and don't forget your stencils will stick to your tacky mat way better than anything else. So just hang on to your piece of card as you take your stencil off, because your stencil will stick to the tacky mat. You don't want to move your card when you lift this off. Okay, so we're going to go back in here with the rhubarb jam on all those sort of shadowy petally bits. I'm not being as precise with this one as I was with the main one because you're going to hide some of it, so I'm not too worried. Still looks good. Okay, and then we're going to come in with those leaves, and again I'm going to do exactly the same as I did on the other one. I'm going to go in with the Margarita and then go back in with the garden sage. So I'm going to just put a little bit of rhubarb jam in there, and then I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to hold on to everything. I'm just going to wipe that off there so that I don't contaminate my Margarita. So I'm going to do all that, and then I can go in with the Margarita on the leaves And it's just a way of sort of just using these as they're designed, I suppose, as stencils, without cutting them out, without embossing them, just to sit in the background, and then put your embossed piece on the top as your main feature, if you like. So again, I'm not going as deep with my colours on this back layer, but I do want it to have enough colour to sort of show up. But the beauty of the tacky mat to do something like this is just fab, because you haven't got to worry about things, you know, not lining up, not being in the right place. It's going to be perfect every time. You just need to keep an eye on your card every time you take the stencil off, as I say, because you can see here where my stencil is actually sticking to the tacky mat. Now if I just pull that off, the chances are it might move my card. So just be, you know, a little bit careful when you're taking things off, when you're doing it like that. So again, use that third right angle, line up my stencil on my card, and then I can go ahead and put my veins on my leaves. Okay, I'm going to do those smaller areas. Just take that out of my mouth, you'll be able to understand me. I'll do the smaller areas in Margarita, as I am with the stem, and then we can come back in with the garden sage afterwards. So again, veins on the leaves with the garden sage, and then just a little bit of shadow on that Margarita stem. And you're done. Okay. That's probably slightly off there, but blind man, galloping horse, never going to see it. Okay, so I'm going to take this off here. And just be careful when you peel it off. It's not sticky, but you just want to be a little bit careful when you're taking it off. So peel it back gently, and it will reveal the flower that you've already done. You see this one's quite a lot lighter than the one I've done today, but it won't matter. So I've done two. Now I suppose I could get another one in there, but I don't want it to look too busy because it's quite a smaller card. But you can see that I've actually gone a little bit heavier on this one than I did on this one. But once I put the other one on the top, I don't really think that's going to make any difference. So I'll just put the lids on here, and then I won't wipe my arm in my ink pads. Okay, so here's my card base. I think we'll just move this out of the way. So here's my card base, and you can see I've already put my scalloped square on the base card. Okay, this is a 7x7 card, so because I know you'll ask if I don't tell you. And then as I say, I've used the largest scalloped square and the largest plain stitched square, and that's going to go on there. Okay, now I am going to 3D it because I think it deserves to be 3D'd, if I'm honest. So we'll just quickly, I mean obviously I couldn't put these pads on because I hadn't stenciled the flowers, but it shouldn't take me long just to add a few down, whip the backs off, and then we can carry on. Okay, and then the other one that I'm going to show you is also based on one of the samples that have been in the group, which is totally different, but I also wanted to add to it. So I wanted to use the Petal Flourish Background Embossing Folder. And as I say, I haven't used the stencils, I've simply embossed it in white card and I've cut it up. but you'll see in a sec when we get to it. Okay, so let's just whip these off. They doesn't take very long at all. Well, you'll ask, won't you, Sue? If I don't tell you, you'll always come back and say, what size card? I must admit, 7x7 is probably one of my most favourite. Why am I using so many? Because it's just, I'm just a bit OCD with it, Nikki, to be honest. I don't like to have a gap in the middle because I don't want it to sort of dip. So it's just me and a bit of OCD. Don't worry about it. You use as many or as few as you wish. Absolutely, it's totally up to you. So I'm just going to pop that down in the middle. Now I did think about sort of putting something in the background, and then I thought, do you know what? This flower really needs its own space. It needs to just sit on its own. Let me just take that off there, like so. And then we can put this one on the front here. Now you can either just add it to the front like so, or you can add it a little bit further down so you've got space up here for a sentiment. You do exactly what you want to do, but can you see now it's not going to matter that I went a little bit heavier on this one than I did on this one, because you can't really see it. All you've got is a bit of interest in the background with the same flowers. Okay, so I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put it about there and I'm going to trim this off. Okay, so I'm going to take my pads off the back of here, and I've just put pads where I want the support on that flower. So there are a few like sticky out leaves that I don't want to sort of have no support. So I'm just going to pop that down there, and I'm going to pop it so that it's sort of sitting between those two. So this one's a bit lower, this one's a little bit higher. So I'm going to set this one so that it's sort of in the middle. Okay, like so. But can you see how having that just little bit of that drop shadow just makes that flower stand out from all the others? So I'm just going to snip that stem off there. I'm going to snip it off where I might take it right to the edge actually, because the other two are right to the edge. So I'll snip it right at the edge, and then they're all the same. Okay, so that's my card. And then it was basically, what sentiment do I want to put on? Do I want to just put one sentiment, or do I want to put it here? Do you know what? I think I'm going to put it there. And I'm actually going to bend it a little bit so that it's sort of raised. Okay, so it's going to sit there like that. I quite like that. And if you wanted to, you could put a few gems up the top, just to sort of take away that stark whiteness if you wanted to, but I don't think it needs it. So I'm just got a little bit of glue on the ends there. And then I'm going to pop that down there like so. So that it actually looks as though my sentiment is holding my little bouquet of flowers together. See? I really like that. I think that's really quite nice. And you see what I mean about the two flowers in the background? Just give you some added interest so that you've got sort of like a bunch of flowers rather than just one flower on your card. Okay, and I really like that idea. So that's card number one. I did do it the right way, didn't I? Yeah. I'm good at that. Putting it the wrong way around, and then when I stand it up, it doesn't stand up that way, it stands up that way. But that one's okay. All right, so that's card number one. And then the other one is based on this one. Okay, and this one is even more simple than this. And you can see that I've done the stitch bubble ovals, and I've used the largest oval there and the largest plain stitched oval. And then what I've done is I've die cut the Zinnia, and I've embossed it in grey. So I'll take that out there. So you can see this is what I've done. Let me take that off. Okay, so this is what I've done. So I've die cut one in grey and I've embossed it. And then I've put a sentiment on. And this is my Petal Flourish embossing. All right. And all I've done, I've quite literally only embossed a piece of card that is, I think it was 2 1/8 wide. I didn't measure it before I put it in the embossing folder. I happened to measure it afterwards because I wanted to cut it down the middle. And that's the only reason I measured it. So that's the only reason I know how wide it was. And I just put it in the embossing folder on the part that I wanted to emboss. Okay. So I wanted that that beautiful big flower. I'll show you the actual folder. I wanted this, okay, but I wanted it so that you could see it both sides of this oval. So if you see, if I lift that up, you've got the big flower here and then the big flowers here as well. So all I've done is just cut that piece of card down the middle and then I've stuck it both sides. I had thought about backing the embossing onto some card the same colour as these, the card that I've used for the stitched bubble ovals. And then I thought, no, I don't think it needs it. So I've just left it so that it's white on white at the background. And really it's just to give some interest to the background so that it's just not plain white, okay? So that's how I did that bit. And then I keep saying to you that I know people don't like fussy cutting, but don't worry, Claire. I know people say they don't like fussy cutting, and I say every time I do a piece that I've cut out, I do say to you that Lisa's embossing folders are so deep it will give you a guideline to cut out to. So I thought I really need to prove that what I'm saying is true. So I've stenciled just the flowers because I only want the flowers on here. Because if you remember on that picture that I showed you, there's only the flowers that are stuck onto that grey. Most of it is grey and I've just done the flowers. So I thought I ought to just follow my own advice and basically show you how easy it is to just cut out. And no, I'm not putting it on like this. I'm just giving myself a bit less card to cut. So I'm just going to follow the embossed lines round and cut this flower out. Okay, and then I can stick this onto that grey piece. Now, I know I'm using large scissors, but I find I can fussy cut better with larger scissors than I can with smaller scissors. And you'll notice that I'm actually moving the card, not the scissors, okay, because it's just easier. If you follow that line round, move your card so that your scissors are automatically following the embossed lines, it will cut beautifully. And you've got a perfect line to follow because, as I've said, the embossing is so deep on these folders that you can follow that sort of outline embossed line. I do go a bit quiet when I'm doing this though, so it's quite mindful fussy cutting. If you're doing it like this, I mean, some fussy cutting, I've got to be honest, I would agree with those people who say they hate it, because depending on what it is, it can drive you scatty. But just follow the lines, and this is why I wanted to do it live, just so that you could see that I'm not particularly taking a great deal of time. I am trying to be careful, but I'm just following those embossed lines to cut out these flowers, and then I can 3D these onto my grey piece. Okay, so last little bit, follow this round. I can't keep saying it's dead easy and then not do it, can I? Because otherwise you'll think I'm making it up, but it is. is actually really easy. And it doesn't really take, I mean, that hasn't taken me very long at all. I'm just going to do that last little bit from the other side. Like so. Okay. So there you go. I mean, that didn't take me any time at all, really, did it? And that is now just going to sit on there. I'm just going to use a little bit of 3D glue gel because it's a little bit easier than 3D pads because the shape is a little bit small. So to use pads will be a bit fiddly. I'll have to cut them all up. And I don't really want to take that sort of time to do that. Okay. Put a tiny little bit in the middle there, just to give that little middle piece some support. Okay, and then we can just set this on top of our grey piece like so. And obviously if you're using 3D glue gel, you've got a little bit more time to sort of manoeuvre that around and make sure that it's in exactly the right place. Okay, and I went with pink because I think pink goes with turquoise really nicely. I think it's gee, thanks. So it's good job you can't see my face then. So yeah, I think pink and turquoise go together really nicely, but I wanted to keep this one sort of pink based. Okay, so excuse the rather large helicopter just going over. That's one of those big double-bladed helicopters. They're huge and they come so low, rattles my windows. So there you go, 2 different cards, both using the Zinnia. So I think between us, Claire and I have given you some lovely ideas to use them, and the tall daisies are equally as fabulous. You can see I've only put just a tiny little sentiment on here. It's just a hello, and that was one of those foiled stickers. So just 2 little different cards just to show you how versatile this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful set is. If you wanted to do this card in 5x7, where would be a good place to nip the flower? Do you mean this card, Adrienne? To be honest, I really don't think it matters. I mean, I've snipped this one on the stem. I would always go on the stem because I think if you start and snip it, unless you were doing something like Claire was doing yesterday and sort of using parts of the flowers, I would always go for the least noticeable place that you could cut it, and on this one it would definitely be on the stem, so I would definitely cut it on the stem. But this will fit a 5x7 beautifully, so you know, I wouldn't worry about whether you've got to cut it or not, because this one will look amazing on a 5x7. I just happened to have used an oval, which meant it wouldn't quite fit on, so that's why I've snipped that one. And I've snipped this one because I've used it on a smaller card. The card that I showed you in the oranges and the lemons, I didn't snip anything on that at all. So, you know, it's just however the mood takes you and however you want it to look. It is totally personal preference. Okay, so I will love you and leave you there. 1:45. Lisa's on at 6 o'clock. Not sure what she'll be doing. Dancing, possibly. Yeah, they're really loud though, aren't they, Jan? But yeah, never mind. They might save the world one day, so I shan't complain about them. So yeah, I will leave that there with you. Hope you enjoyed that. I will be back with you on Monday, and Lisa will be with you 6 o'clock on the TV tonight. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? That's why I like this one, and I liked it in the colours that I'd done it for my samples, but I wanted to do it in different colours just to see if it looked the same or, you know, similar. So yeah, I'm pleased with that one. I like that one. So yeah, 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then Dawn Wheeler's doing the 2 o'clock show so that Lisa can get home and give Danny a hand or make his tea or rubbish back, or I don't know, whatever she does when she gets home. So thanks so much for joining me. It's really lovely to see so many of you here. And I will see you again on Monday, but obviously round at Lisa's on Friday night as well. So have a fabulous weekend, and I'll see you all soon.